Next, let's have a look at picture styles. Again, these are some of the things which you might have seen and maybe used a few of them because you wanted that quick result, but you might know what they are and why they are used and what you should be using. Picture styles comes in various flavors, things like standard, natural, portrait, landscape, and monochrome. Some of the cameras, specifically the ones like which comes with smartphone, may give you further options in monochrome, wherein there are filter options like red filter, blue filter, green filter, or even sepia and things like that. But these are some of the most common ones what you can find in your camera. So, what are this picture style? Picture styles are something which can be used to embed certain information into your camera when you're shooting raw. Again, as I'll be repeating these things over and again, or even during the course of this video. If you are shooting raw, you have that flexibility of changing these things which we have been talking after the picture quality, things like white balance, picture style, and stuff like that. These are information which are stored in your file, especially when you are shooting raw. These are information what gets reflected if you're shooting JPEG picture style. So when it comes to say natural, the way the information is captured in your file is like it will not over saturate the colors, nor it will make the image too contrasty, nor it will make the image too sharp. It's more of like a neutral reference wherein it's not pushed to the extreme. Wherein when it comes to the situation wherein it is landscape, you see that the images are slightly saturated. When it comes to Nikon, they have this option called vivid, wherein especially when you're shooting landscape, it will actually bump up the colors in the sky, say the blues and the greens in the forest and the trees. It will bump up the saturation. It will make the image look more lively and colorful. But when it comes to say portrait, when you're using portrait picture style, ensure that you have the correct skin tone of the subject that you're shooting. Skin tones are very important, be it in photography or filmmaking. It makes no sense making the skin look too pale, or it makes no sense to make the skin look too warm or things like that. Using a picture style which is portrait, we can make sure that the skin tones are rendered properly. In most cases, by default, standard is what is usually set in the camera, and that's what you usually shoot in the smartphone cameras as well. So what exactly happens in standard picture profile is that it goes one step above the natural, wherein the image is made slightly contrasty, saturated, but not to the extent of whether it's landscape or vivid. And the image is slightly more sharper the way it is rendered when it compared to natural. So as I told you when we were referring to RAW versus JPEG, if you want a file in a specific format, you want the scene to be captured in a certain format, and it has to be sent to say press or say it's for print immediately, you might want to choose one of these picture styles. Like you want a quick solution wherein everything looks good, and if your exposure is fine, you want to have a file which is ready for print or publishing, then you might want to use a standard picture style. But if you want that extra bit of room to say you want to edit, like you want to decide on how much color or saturation that you want to add, or how much contrast that you want to add to your images, then you can probably start with natural. And if your subject is primarily portrait, then you might want to probably use portrait a picture style. And if you want to say like a black and white image, a very standard neutral black and white image, then you might want to go with monochrome picture style. Keep in mind, if you're shooting only JPEG and if you're chosen one of these picture style, that's it. You don't have an option to go back and change to whatever you want. But if you're shooting raw, and assume you shot the image in natural picture profile, you have that option of using your raw image editing tools like Lightroom, Capture One, and things like that. You have that option of going and changing your picture style later on while doing post processing. Okay, you can actually convert an image shot in standard picture profile to monochrome, or say to landscape. But if you're shooting only JPEG, and assume that you have used a monochrome picture style, there is no way you can get back your color information. So that's exactly the reason why I'm emphasizing so much. You can see the advantages of raw. You can play around with white balance, you can play around with the picture styles and things like that. And moreover, and also we'll have a look at situations wherein your exposure is off and how you can correct it, especially when you're using raw. So coming back to picture style, if a particular picture style is very important to you, and again image and again quicker image delivery is something which is important, then As I suggested earlier, use raw plus small JPEG or raw plus basic JPEG, wherein the JPEG file that you are getting will have this particular picture style embedded into it, be it landscape or be it monochrome, things like that. But your raw file is still there, and all the information is still intact, and you can later on go back and post process that image to get whatever is the end result that you want.